from grade 9, that is a legend of the Northland. Okay, a legend of the Northland. So this is our fifth poem from your book Beehive. So what is there in the poem? Okay, let me introduce you with the poem. This poem, as you can see from the title, is a legend. What is a legend? A legend is an epic tale, okay, a story which is very historical. A historical tale, okay, like Mahabharata, Ramayana, all that, okay. So it is a legend of the Northland. Northland is a place situated near North Pole, okay, where near North Pole, in the region of North Pole. You must have heard North Pole before also. So what is the thing that is associated with North Pole? First of all, it is associated with Christmas. Okay, it is believed that Santa Claus, you must all have heard about Santa Claus, that it is the place where Santa Claus resides. Okay, home of Santa Claus. Got it? So this story is about this place where Santa is also there. Okay, and one thing about this place is it is very cold. Not just normal cold, but extreme cold. Okay, extreme cold place, Northland, and where Santa also resides. And this poem is about the story behind all of this. And this poem is written in the form of a, watch it carefully, ballet. Okay, what is a ballet? Where the poem is used to tell a story. Okay, the poem is used to tell a story in stanzas, not in stanzas, but in paras, okay, paragraphs. And these paragraphs are usually of 4 lines. Okay, how many lines? 4 lines. So it is a ballet, and this poem is written in the form of a ballet. We have a total 16 stanzas, 16 paras, and we will discuss the poem, that what the poet is trying to say here. And it is a very interesting poem. You must be thinking that 16 stanzas are there, so it is a lengthy poem, but you have to learn it in the form of a story, not a poem. Okay, you have to understand the story, then you can understand the paragraph, the stanzas very clearly. Okay, so we will move ahead with the poem. I will read the lines and I will explain what is there in the poem. Okay, so let's start a poem, a legend of the Northland.
Let's start the poem now. A legend of the Northland. Okay, a legend of the Northland, and I've already introduced you with the poem, that this poem is in a form of a ballet. Okay, and it is composed by Phoebe Cary. Okay, remember the name, Phoebe Cary, not Phoebe Cary, Phoebe Cary. She was an American poetess, and she has written this very beautiful poem which explains a very nice story. So a ballet is a form of a poem that is written like a story in paragraphs. Each paragraph contains of 4 lines. Stanzas we call in poem, and these lines are narrating a story, a very legendary story, an epic tale. Okay, so it is a poem that is the legend of an old lady who angered whom she angered a Saint Peter. Okay, who is a saint? Saint you can understand by its Hindi meaning that it is a sant in Hindi. Okay, saint is sant. Okay, someone who believes in idealism, who believes in worshipping God, and who spreads the various preaching of a lord of a certain sect or a religion. Okay, so Saint Peter, who used to believe in Christianity, so he was irritated by a lady who was very greedy. So this story narrates the story of this incident, and we will see that how the story unfolds. So let's start our poem. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Okay, so in the opening lines, in the first stanza, the poet is introducing us with the place Northland. Okay, away, away in the Northland means very far in the Northland, the region of north. Okay, where the hours of the day are few. It is situated in a part of our earth where the days are shorter and the nights are longer. Okay, so away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. In the region around the North Pole, Northland, the duration of the day is very less. Okay, the day is very less because its position is such that the sun rays reach for a very less time. So the sunlight is there for very less time, so the days are shorter and the nights are longer. When this area is experiencing winter season, when this area is experiencing the time of winters, the duration of night is so long and the day times are so less that in the line 4 the poet is saying that they cannot sleep them through. That means very less time is for the days and the nights are so long that people just can't uh, be just can't sleep throughout the night. Okay, they take a nap for few hours, they sleep for a few hours, then they wake up because it's still night time, the night is very long. Okay, so in the first stanza the poet is introducing us with the idea that in Northland the days are shorter and the nights are so long that people hardly sleep throughout the night. They sleep just for few hours during the night because the night is so long. Okay, now let's see the second stanza. Okay, so where they harness the swift reindeer, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear cubs in their funny clothes. Okay, the rhyming scheme is also very beautifully used. See, the first line of this stanza is ending with reindeer, second with snows, okay, third with cups, and fourth with clothes. So you can mark A, B, C because all three are different, and then the last one is the repetition of second line. Snows and clothes are rhyming, so A, B, C, B. This is the rhyming scheme throughout the poem. Okay, so here the poet is telling us that the Northland region experiences very cold conditions. Okay, the cold is so much that it is hardly bearable. It is a snowy area. The reindeer is an animal which is found in this region, the polar region. Reindeer are found in polar region. You must have seen as a kid in the pictures that Santa Claus, when he comes through his cart, it is run by a reindeer, by a group of reindeers. People tie the reindeers to sledges. Harness means to tie the reindeers with a rope to a sledge. Okay, the sledge in which someone sits, so that it can be used for transportation. Okay, so the poet is telling us that people tie the reindeers to the sledges and the reindeers pull the sledges. He adds that the children look like young ones of a bear. Okay, here the poet is saying, and the children look like bear cubs, the baby bears, because they are wearing so furry clothes because of the winters, and it makes them look like they are bear cubs. Okay, so the second stanza is clear, that the poet is expressing that the reindeers are being harnessed to the sledges, so that people can move in the cart, and they can be pulled through the reindeers, and the children look like they are the little bear cubs. Okay, so the story goes like, the poem has to be seen like a story. In the first stanza, the story has started that Northland is a place where nights are long and days are less, and in the second stanza the reindeers are introduced, the children are introduced by their clothes, that they look like bear cubs. Okay, now the third stanza we have to move to. So see, they tell them a curious story. I don't believe this true. TIS is an expression of this. In poems, the poets used to write TIS as this. Okay, I don't believe this true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I'll tell the tale to you. So here the poet is saying in the first line of the stanza that here they refers to the parents. Okay, parents or the elders. Them refers to the children. Okay, so the elders of the Northland region tell a strange and interesting story to the younger generation, to their kids. The poet says that he doesn't think that the story is true. The poet is saying that I don't believe in the story, but if he tells the story to the reader, maybe the reader could learn a lesson from it. Okay, so the poet is saying they tell them a curious story. They means the parents tell their kids a curious story, or the elder ones tell the story to the younger generation, which the poet doesn't believe. But the poet is saying that maybe we can, or you can, the readers can take a lesson out of this story. Okay, so the three stanzas are clear. In the first stanza, the Northland is introduced. In the second stanza, the children, they wear which kind of clothes it is introduced, and in the third one, the poet is now starting to tell us the story that the elders tell a story in the Northland, which the poet doesn't believe, but maybe the readers can learn something out of the story. Okay, so let's proceed with the next stanzas. Okay, once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, you know. So here, the in the fourth stanza, the story is starting now. The poet is introducing us with the story. He is saying that this story is about Saint Peter. He was an apostle of Christ. He was a disciple or follower of Jesus Christ. Okay, he was a follower of Jesus Christ, and he used to give preaching to people. He used to preach about the religion Christianity. Okay, the story is about Saint Peter. When Saint Peter used to live in the world and went around giving religious preaching or lectures to the people, to the common people, just like all the saints do, then an incident happened. Okay, so now the poet is telling us that when Saint Peter was preaching throughout the world, one incident happened, and about which our story is. Let's see the next stanza. And being faint, fifth stanza, he came to the door of a cottage. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and taking and baking them on the hearth. Okay, so the rhyming scheme is same, A B C B. Okay, so here the poet is telling us that he came to the door of a cottage. Who? Saint Peter came to the door of a cottage when he was traveling all around the world, and there he found a little woman who was making cakes and baking them on hearth. Hearth means fireplace where you do cooking. So hearth is the fireplace. Okay, like you must have seen the chimneys. Okay, so the fireplace is called hearth. So when Saint Peter was moving around the world, when he was giving lectures, religious lectures, he reached to the door of a cottage where a small woman was making cake, and she was baking the cakes in the hearth. Hearth means fireplace. Okay, let's see the next stanza. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Okay, so when Saint Peter was in the door of that lady, he saw that she was making cakes. So he was hungry, he was having the fast, and now the end of the day was near, and so he had not eaten anything. So he was very hungry and he was feeling weak. So he went to this woman who was making the cakes, and he asked her that, can you please give me one? Okay, so he asked the woman, the little woman, Saint Peter asked that, can you please give me a piece of cake? Okay, okay, so now see the seventh stanza. By far it is clear that Saint Peter was moving here and there and he visited that woman. So what happened next? He asked her a piece of cake. So what she did? See, so she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Okay, so she made a very small piece of cake. She was very selfish and greedy. She baked a very small cake from her store. So she was looking throughout the store, and she thought that the cakes are very big. So she baked a very small piece of cake, and when she was going to give the small cake to Saint Peter, she thought that that it is also very big. She thought that she didn't want to share her things, but when she put the cake for baking, she looked at it and thought that this cake is also too big to give to someone. See, there were many pieces of cake which were big, so she thought she could make a small one. When she made a small one, again she thought that even this small piece is big enough to give away. So she was having the greed. Okay, let's see the eighth stanza. Therefore she needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. Okay, so what happened? She thought that maybe she can make a different small cake. So she baked a cake for Saint Peter, but what happened? She thought that this one is also even bigger than the last one. This is similar to the cake that she has baked last time. So she thought that this is also same. Now she is not in a mood to give this also. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as water, but she couldn't part with that. Okay, so what she did next? The third time she took very small amount of dough and rolled it. The poet says that she rolled and rolled to make it flat, to make the dough very thin like water, okay, and she baked it. But she was so greedy that this time also she thought that this thin piece of bread, I should keep it with me only, I should not give it to the Saint Peter. So she see the greedy woman, she is not even in the mood of giving the little piece of dough. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself, and yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. So what happened? See, the poet was sorry, the Saint Peter was very hungry. The woman whom she visited, he visited, was baking cakes. The first instance, the woman thought that all the cakes in my store are big. She made a small one. Then she thought that even this small piece is big enough for to give away. Then she made a smaller one. Now also she thought that it is of the similar size. So the third time she made a flat thin dough. She rolled it enough to make it thin like water. And after that also she thought that it is very big to give away. Now what happened? She said that my cakes that seem too small when I eat them of myself. Okay, the woman reasoned that when she ate the cakes alone, she feels that they are very small, and when she has to give them away to someone, she feels that they are very big. She pulled all the cakes on the shelf of her kitchen, and she did not give any cake to Saint Peter. So all the cakes that she had baked, she put them on the shelf, and she said no to Saint Peter, that I can't give you anything. Okay, now see the next stanza. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. So what happened? Now Saint Peter, out of his hunger, he became angry, and he was feeling very weak, and he got frustrated over the selfish woman who was not ready to give him even a single slice of bread. This behavior angered even a very holy saint. So, what happened next? And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. Okay, so now what Saint Peter said, he cursed the woman. He cursed the woman that you are very selfish, you don't deserve a human life, you don't deserve the food, the shelter, and the fire to keep you warm. You have become so selfish that even having such resources, even having so much of food, your greed is so much that you even can't give something to eat to the needy or the hungry people. Okay, so let's see what happened next. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood. Saint Peter cursed the woman that now she will become a bird. He cursed her that you will now become a bird, and you don't deserve this human form, and you will become a bird. And just like birds build their nest and by boring into the wood, what does boring means? Make a hole in something by digging it. Okay, you must have seen a bird that it continuously puts the beak on the wood. Okay, so like that bird, you will continue to do boring, make a hole in the wood, and you will make your nest in that tree, and for the entire day you will collect little food by working hard the entire day, and you will also work hard in dry wood, and you will get little food and make a small place for yourself to live in. So the curse that Saint Peter gave to the greedy woman that she will now become a bird and her human form will be abolished, and she will now have to dwell, she will now have to make holes in the trees for her nest, and now she will have to work hard for catching food. Okay. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Okay, so what happened? The saint transformed the woman into a woodpecker. You must have seen a woodpecker, it continuously beats its beak into the wood to make hole. Now the woman, she went inside the chimney and she came out as a bird. Okay. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. So, what happened? The scarlet means very bright, very brilliant red color. So, what happened when the woman turned into a bird? At that time, she was wearing a red colored cap on her head. So, now she was having that with her, and this cap was there on her head also, the bird's head also, and the remaining clothes were burnt and turned black into color just like coal. Okay, and every county schoolboy has seen her in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. So now, even now, this story is a very old legend, a very old tale, but now also every county boy means the local boy, every boy has seen the bird who dwells, who do boring in the wood in the form of a woodpecker. So it is believed that this woodpecker bird is no one else but the old greedy woman, little greedy woman. Okay, so people who live in the countryside, even their small children, when they go to school, they have seen this kind of bird. They see that she stays there all day and keeps on digging the wood with her beak to collect her food. Whenever any child sees this kind of bird, then the elders tell them this story. Okay, the elders tell to the younger ones the story of this woman, and they tell the kids that this bird has been transformed from that greedy old woman. They say that the bird used to be a woman earlier, she was cursed by Saint Peter, and now she turned into a bird. They get a teaching that they should not be greedy. Okay, so this poem was by Phoebe Carey, and I hope you have understood this. It is up to you to believe in the story or not, but the moral that we can take from the story is we should never be greedy. So I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. I hope you have understood the poem. This poem is very nice. You must be afraid of the huge number of stanzas. The 16 stanzas are there, but you have to understand the poem in continuation, that how the story proceeds, that a saint was there, he goes to a woman, the Northland is a place where elders tell a story to the kids. And what is the story? This story is about Saint Peter and that old greedy woman, little greedy woman, who turned into woodpecker. And now in this day also, the people, their kids, when they go to school, they saw this woodpecker bird, and their elders tell them a story of this Saint Peter and the bird. So now let's see some of the literary devices in the poem. So first of all, the rhyming scheme. I have already told you that the poem is in the rhyme scheme A, B, C, B. So the first three letters are different, and the last letter is similar to the second letter of the line. Okay, the first line has the ending word which is denoted by A, then the second line by B, the third line by C, and the fourth line's ending word is rhyming to the one that was in the line second, in the second line. In every stanza the rhyme scheme is same. The second device that is used in the poem is alliteration. And what is alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound in two or more close words. For example, there are many examples you can find in your poem, but here I am telling you the two examples. In stanza 1, that, they, them, through, th, the sound is repeating, the, that, they, them, through. Okay, and in stanza 2 also, they, so the sound is repeating, and look like, la sound is repeating, funny, furry, fur sound is repeating. So the repetition of consonant sound in continuation is called alliteration. So the second device used in the poem is alliteration. Now the third device used in the poem is repetition. Any word or sentence is repeated to lay emphasis on it is repetition. Stanza 1, away word is repeated quite a few times, and in stanza 9, rolled word is repeated, and stanza 13 and 16, boring word is repeated. So the use of repetition is also there. Now see the fourth, enjambment. Enjambment is the running lines of poetry from one to the next without using any kind of punctuation. So no punctuation marks are used. There is to indicate a stop. So this is called enjambment. Stanza 1, line 3 and 4, no marks are there. Stanza 2, line 1 and 2, line 3 and 4, no marks are there. Stanza 3, no punctuation marks are there in line 3 and 4. And stanza 4 also the same, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There are no punctuation marks used between the two lines 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Stanza 10, line 1, 2 and 3, there is no punctuation mark between them. And stanza 11 also is the same. Okay, and the fifth poetic device, the literary device used is the simile. What is simile? Simile is the comparison of two things with using as or like. In the second stanza, the children look like bear's cubs. Here simile is used. Children compared to bear cubs by using like. Okay, and when we don't use as and like, that is called metaphor. Stanza 9, the baked it thin as a wafer. Here cake is compared to water. Okay, here baked it thin as wafer. Okay, stanza 15, clothes were burned black as a coal. Okay, here clothes, burned clothes are compared to that of coal. Okay, the color of the clothes are compared to that of coal. Okay, and now our story, our poem ends here, which was in the form of the ballad. So I hope you have understood the poem.
Okay, so I hope that you have understood the poem. The poem is very simple and very interesting. It is in the form of a story as we have discussed, and I hope you have enjoyed the story. Now you will do the word meanings and the summary of the poem. Summary you can write on your own, or if you have any confusion you can take help from me, and then you will do the extract based questions in your fair notebooks. Then our syllabus for literature for the half yearlies is finished. Okay, we have now one more topic, that is diary writing. We will proceed further with diary writing, and one chapter from Moments, sorry I forgot, one chapter from Moments, the Happy Prince is left. We will do that in the coming video, and then we will proceed with diary writing. So for now, thank you so much for watching the lecture. I hope you have enjoyed A Legend of the Northland, and I hope you have understood the poem. You have been watching the poem for the entire time. Okay, so I hope you have learned it, and we will meet again soon with my next video. So I am Aman, you are watching PTO classes. Thank you so much for watching the lecture.